Hey everybody, welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Lizard King of New York City. Now, there's actually a connection between this structure on the left, the Chateau de Chambord in France, and this apartment building in New York City, the Alwyn Court. And it was a surprising connection for me, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. So should be interesting. Let's get into it. Now I want to lay out this little investigation as I came across it, and it actually started by me looking into these cherubs that can be seen on a lot of structures dated to the 18 and even early 1900s in North America, these baby angels. But when you actually look into the history of cherubs, it turns out that even though angels appear over 250 times in the scriptures, the Bible, not one biblical account suggests that they bear childlike features. And actually there's, I believe, some descriptions of them having 4 wings and multiple faces. They're a high rank of angels, so they don't look anything like this. Turns out these are referred to as puto. I think that's like the singular and puti is the plural form. But it was apparently during the Renaissance period where these puto started getting called cherubs. And they started to show up in these Italian Renaissance paintings. They derive from the Greek and Roman periods. So if you take a look at some of these Renaissance paintings, you will find what we're being told are cherubs. This is the Sistine Madonna painting from Raphael in the early 1500s. And you can see these 2 cherubs, what we're being told are cherubs at the bottom of that painting. And this is a terracotta sculpture from Donatello in the mid 1400s. But again, a Madonna and child with these 4 cherubs or putti. And I think this is being stored at this museum in Berlin. But you can definitely find depictions of these not cherubs during the Renaissance period. But if you look at older depictions, the Roman and Greek periods, you will find them depicted in mosaics and even fragment of a sarcophagus depicting these putti. And I remember even coming across some artifacts from Pakistan, modern day Pakistan, at a site that had some Hellenistic background, and they found this artifact that has one of these puto on the back of this sea monster, and it's being described as a cherub. So they were definitely being depicted on these older artifacts, and then during the Renaissance period they got rebranded as cherubs. And if you even move forward in the timeline, the Christopher Wren churches in London, he has depicted many of these cherubs with his churches. And I guess just a side note, apparently St. Paul's Cathedral, he built that in approximately 35 years, which was an astonishing feat. But while he was doing that, I guess he also designed 50 city churches. So he was a busy man, but he depicted a lot of these cherubs or not cherubs on a lot of his churches. And I remember even Detroit, Michigan, we're told they built this memorial gate in the 1890s. And the narrative is that they built it in honor of this the water commissioner, Chauncey Hurlbut. And I think he left his estate to the city, and they used some of the proceeds of that to build this. We're told. I think it's older. I just wanted to mention that this memorial gate is here. It's connected to this waterworks park, and this is the park that had that really ornate water tower, which was unfortunately also demolished in 1945. You can see the water tower depicted in the background here, but this is that memorial gate. And when you actually take a closer look at it, you'll see more of these not cherubs depicted. And when you look at some of these pillars, again, associated with this gate, designs based on Italian Renaissance motifs, and again, more of these not cherubs, and maybe even the Green Man. So, what does any of this have to do with the former water commissioner, right? So I think all of this is older. I wanted to keep looking for more examples of these cherubs. And I decided to look at New York City, and I came across this building, apartment building, Alwyn Court. And I think we're told this was built in 1909 or 1908. And you find these really decorative elements associated with this building, including these cherubs and the fleur-de-lis, as well as many other floral motifs, and a lot going on with the facade of this building. And as you look through some of these images, you just take in all of the effort that must have went into this. But yeah, it's a terracotta facade over a red brick structure. But then I noticed what looks like some type of a lizard, apparently, with a crown over it. And this is one of the entrances when you can see two of these lizards with crowns above them. And I started to look into that a bit more and came across some spicy articles talking about 15th century in New York. And as you dig into some of the articles, they mention that this lizard's actually a salamander. And this symbol of a salamander with a crown over it actually belongs to a certain king of France. And I'm going to get into that, but this is just another enhanced version of that, clearer depiction of that salamander with the crown above it. The crowned salamander decoration on Alwyn Court facade, New York City. So this symbol is the symbol of King Francis I, or Francois I of France, and the salamander and Francis I, master of Chambord. So we're told that this structure, this chateau, was built for King Francis I, and I think they said it was completed in the mid 1500s. But associated with this structure on the inside, and I've heard varying estimates, but conservatively, the building contains more than 300 depictions of this particular animal, these salamanders. And this is just a close-up detail of the ceiling at Chateau Chambord. So there's just all of these salamanders, and the salamander is really linked to this structure and to that king. And before we go back to New York City, I just wanted to mention that apparently this Renaissance style, this French Renaissance architecture, the style, we're told, was imported from Italy by French kings after the 100 Years' War. So we're told that this architectural style starts in Italy and then it spills over into the rest of Europe a bit later. But this French Renaissance architecture also comes after this French Gothic architecture. And I just wanted to mention that because a lot of times I talk about, it seems to me like you had this Roman period, which was ended by an apocalypse. And then you had the rise of this Gothic period. And then there was another destruction. And then this Renaissance period. That's how it kind of seems to me. Now, getting back to the Alwyn Court apartment in New York City, when you look into it, two architects were hired, Hardy and Short, who just decided to lavish the exterior with this French Renaissance style, inspired by the court of Francis I, apparently. And I guess there's a bit of a mystery surrounding these architects because they abruptly split up after designing a few intricate building facades in New York during this time period. But after creating some of these really unique facades on a few buildings, they go their own ways and they don't do anything notable after that. And I tend to think maybe these buildings are a bit older than the early 1900s. And one of the other buildings they designed, we're told, is this Red House, which also is in Manhattan. And you can see here on the left is an older image of it, but I just highlighted this area, and this is the area zoomed in, and you can see this crowned salamander once again. So just really interesting that you got this much ties to this King Francis I in New York City, and I just find that really fascinating. And just another depiction there, and here's just another depiction, I believe, associated with that same building. And it doesn't stop there with regards to New York City and Manhattan, because you can find apparently this French Renaissance style inspired apparently by Francis I. There are many examples of this architectural style in New York City and Manhattan as well. And you have the William K. Vanderbilt House, which we're told, it was demolished in 1926, and it only was around for 40 to 50 years. And I believe it was older than that, but there was a detail that I thought was very interesting associated with this particular mansion. And I guess the house house had a slender 3-story turret carved with a fleur-de-lis at the entrance. So that Alwyn Court building has a lot of, in addition to the crown salamander on the facade, it's got a lot of fleur-de-lis associated with it. So I don't think the Vanderbilts have any connection to French nobility or anything like that. So interesting design choices for this mansion. And there's even another mansion that used to be in Manhattan, the Charles M. Schwab Mansion, which, again, it lasted, 42 years apparently before they demolished it. But it was also built in this French Renaissance style. So a lot of French Renaissance going on in New York City in the early 1900s, apparently. So maybe these things are closer in age than we're being told. What was happening with the French Renaissance architecture in France and in New York City, as opposed to this revival that happens 360 years later, maybe they're much closer in age. Yeah, I thought it was really fascinating. And I even came across looking at, it was either this particular structure, the Chateau de Chambord, or one of the structures associated with King Francis I. I found this salamander associated with this cherub. They're describing it as a child angel, but it's one of these So a lot to take in there, but just wild connections that I didn't expect to find or come across. So kind of wanted to share with you guys. So I think that's about all I got for you for today. I do want to give a big shout out to my channel members. Thank you for all your help and support. Greatly appreciated. As well as my patrons. Thank you for everything that you do. It is also greatly appreciated. So with that being said, until next time, take care. Bye.